Hello, everybody, and welcome to a not so happy Kelly Green Hour as the Philadelphia Eagles get dismantled. Never thought I would say those words against the New York Giants 5 days ago, 34-17, to fall to 4-2 on the season as they lose their second consecutive game. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, that was not pretty. It was very ugly. Things need to change. Things need to be fixed. Hopefully over as many bye they did, but we're gonna unfortunately rehash what happened last Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, not pretty is probably a nice way of putting it. I mean, the MetLife Field ate up Quinyon Mitchell, and then we were forced to further see why CB2 is a massive need for this Philadelphia Eagles team. And then, of course, we're going to dive into it. Zadarius Smith with his surprise announcement. Like, now edge just became probably the biggest need on the football field. It was really probably the worst week that the Eagles have had since within that 10-game stretch that happened a couple years ago where things really fell apart. This honestly felt like the worst week with the Quinyon Mitchell injury, with the loss, with the Zadarius Smith announcement. It just feels like there's something more to come, because why end the week there? We still got another 2 days. There's more time for bad news to flow. It just feels like a bad time for the Eagles right now, but that game was definitely not what we needed.
It was not what we needed, but fortunately, the rest of the NFC East, minus the Giants, acquiesced and lost as well, as the Cowboys fell to the Panthers and the Commanders fell to the Bears. So the Eagles still are in sole possession of first place in the East, but there's still a lot to work on. So before we jump into it, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHarrell54. Follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. And if you're joining us live, let us know your thoughts on the game and everything that's happened between then and now and Quinton Tech. Tanner McKee is actually healthy. He's not better than Jalen Hurts as much as you want to say. And behind this offensive line, I probably wouldn't put Tanner McKee back there anyway, because he's kind of a statue back there. And the way the offensive line has been playing, you need somebody that with a little bit of mobility. Before we jump into the game, you did mention a couple of moves and a couple of injury things. Quinyon Mitchell did hurt his hamstring. Now, I don't know if that is product of the turf at MetLife. What is product of the turf at MetLife is Jalen Carter not playing. That was reason number one why he did not play on Thursday with his heel injury, because if he would have played, he would have tore his Achilles. He would have been out for the year, and the defense would have definitely been done for the rest of the year. So I'm glad that I'm glad they were smart with him. It helped him rest up the heel and the shoulder. So hopefully going into this weekend against Minnesota, we see an energized and better Jalen Carter, hopefully, because they need him. You mentioned it on Monday, yesterday, Zadarius Smith, just out of the blue retired. According to reports, it has nothing to do with the Eagles. It's a personal thing. Do we believe that? Who knows? And
I mean, he did say in his open presser, he praised the culture and he praised the winning culture, and the irony that he retires after back-to-back losses.
And with all the stuff going down with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts and Saquon and the offense looking crappy, who knows?
It doesn't feel like a winning culture. So I mean, I get it if you were coming back for that and it's not turning out to be what you expected. But I mean, I do think it was something personal. I genuinely hope so too.
I think it was something personal, and he's not allowing, or he didn't let what is happening within the Philadelphia Eagles locker room make that decision for him. Going back to the Quinyon Mitchell thing, if he's out, we are screwed because Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo suck. I would assume Mac McWilliams will be active this week. He wasn't active last week. Can't be any worse. I've always mentioned that I like Cooper DeJean in the slot because I like him in the action, but it might come to a point where he has to play on the outside. But maybe let McWilliams play in the slot. Kuba he's had some rough plays out there. That's why I am in favor, and I'm going to say this, and a lot of people are going to disagree. I'm in favor of signing CJ GJ can play in the slot. He did it at New Orleans. He can play safety. If you want to put Cooper DeJean on the outside, you can put CJ GJ in the slot. He knows the defense. He's a vet. This team wins when he's on. They go to the Super Bowl. The 2 years he's been on the roster, they've been to the Super Bowl. So he wants to play, and that's the reason why he asked for a release from Baltimore. He wasn't active. He didn't get promoted from the practice squad. The Eagles have 2 practice squad openings. The Eagles could sign him to the practice squad and elevate him before signing him to the and if he, plays the good soldier and is a good teammate, blah, blah, blah. After 3 weeks, they can sign him to the active roster. But I will always be in favor of CJ GJ being on this team. I'm a big CJ GJ fan. So, and it would not shock me. I mean, it would kind of shock me if it happened. But the Eagles need all the help they can get right now defensively. So if they make that move, I will not be mad. What are your thoughts on that, Connor?
I mean, back when it originally happened, I said I was totally against it. But I mean, dire situations call for some creativity in what you do, and I guess like the good thing about bringing in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson again is he knows the defense. He can come in, he can step right in. He doesn't need a week. Like I feel like the Ravens probably felt like he needed a week or some time to acclimate with the defense despite their injuries. And he wasn't willing to. He wants to go onto a team, give him the playbook, let him put him out there that week right away. You can do that in Philadelphia. He knows what this defense is all about, especially under Vic Fangio. I guess my biggest concern is exactly what you said. Can he be the good soldier? Times are tough right now. Things aren't to the culture, the culture defining Philadelphia Eagles squad of last year that ended up going off and winning a Super Bowl. So can he be the good soldier, or is he just going to create more noise in the locker room when we really don't need any more noise in the locker room? But I mean, I agree with you. You got to get creative. I mean, at this point, I've been tweeting a little bit and putting up on the Eagles Pinpull Network Facebook page. Like, we have, I know you don't love PFF grades, but I mean,
no,
when
they're
this
pointless.
bad, but when this bad, we have 2 out of 109 eligible cornerbacks. Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo rank in the bottom 20 out of 109 eligible cornerbacks from a PFF grade perspective.
I don't need PFF grades to tell me that. I can watch and use my eyes to see that.
I agree. And I think like you heard it today where he's going back to Adoree Jackson, but how long are you going to just bounce back and forth? You cannot put either of those guys in a position to succeed this week. You have arguably one of the best duos in football with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And then you have Adam Thielen as the third. Plus you have TJ Hawkinson. You have so many weapons that you have to take care of and try and find a way to stop. You can't set up someone for success this week. Both Ringo and Jackson, with or without Quinyon Mitchell, are going to look really bad this week. And I just feel like there's a part of me that thinks Howie Roseman wanted to see if Jacorian Bennett could be the guy, but you're not going to have time before the trade deadline to figure out if Jacorian Bennett can be the guy. He's going to have to make a move at CB2. That's just not working out. It's ugly. You don't want to have to move Cooper DeJean outside. Cooper DeJean was outside on a couple of occasions, looked pretty good. He definitely can play the part. I get it. But how much does that weaken the interior of your defense when you move Cooper DeJean to the outside because you have to? You have no choice but to do it. I just feel like, and then obviously throwing the edge rushers. Now our leading edge rusher is gone from the team. So now you have this situation that's probably going to amalgamate how bad the CB2 position is, because there's going to be absolutely no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever, or very limited, more limited to what we already are seeing. And and that's just going to make situation. We've seen that in prior seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles, where when you can't get pressure, it just makes situations in the secondary look worse and worse and worse. So I don't know what Howie's going to do. I don't know if he can afford to just wait for the bye. Because if you lose this week and you lose next week, going into the bye at 4-4 really doesn't seem like a good position to be in. So I really do think that he may have to make the move before then. By how urgently does he think he needs to make it? I don't know. I know that they think highly of Jalix Hunt. I think Jalix Hunt was thrown into things prematurely. I think he needed another year to kind of develop and be a backup. And I know they think insanely highly of Nolan Smith. So for the people who are screaming Trey Hendrickson, I don't think a big deal is happening. I could see Kingsley Anibare just became available. Could they look to the Dolphins in the mess there with Jalen Phillips? I just don't see the big move coming. But it was so frustrating. So many of the needs were so much further exemplified, bringing it all back to that Giants game when Wan'Dale Robinson and Little Jordan Humphrey. It was only 89 and 55 yards, but that's way more yardage than those two guys should ever have against anybody on a football field. And then Jackson Dart just ran circles around. I know that some were missed tackles, some were missed sacks, some were, the typical opportunity should have been, could have been, wasn't. But Jackson Dart just ran circles around them. Anytime he was under pressure, felt like he was able to get away.
The one thing Jackson Dart had in his favor and the Giants had in their favor, that was only his second start. There's really no tape out there. They have 2 films of tape. Next week will be 3 when we play them. Oh, wait, this was his 3rd game. I'm sorry. So there was only 2 weeks of tape. By the time we see him again in 2 weeks, there'll be 4 weeks of tape out there. So I don't think that he would do that. Going back to the edge rusher, Howie has to make a move. Because you can't go into football games and think you're going to be able to get pressure when you have Uche, Ojulari, Hunt, and Patrick Johnson. That's your edge. They're your edges right now. You can't do that. Unless with Nakobe Dean healthy, because maybe they put him next to Bond again and let Jahad Campbell rush the passer a little bit. But still, you need to go out there and make a move. That's why I was always in favor of, Jadeveon Clowney. He signed with Dallas, but I was in favor of that. They're not going to trade for Trey Hendrickson, but there are names out there that you could get. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, who you mentioned. There are some names that the Eagles could potentially Howie could potentially be on the phone with. Teams that are out of it that have some names. When it comes to the CB2 spot, I mean, the bye week can't come fast enough because then Ja'Cory and Bennett can come off, but I think they need to make a move also there. You can't put Adoree Jackson and Kaylee Ringer out there. This week I'm going to see history this week if them two are starting. I'm going to the game Sunday. I'm going to see 2 receivers with 200 yards receiving. It's going to happen. Carson Wentz is going to carve us up. If he's starting, Carson Wentz is going to throw for 450. It's going to get ugly unless Vic Fangio has something up his sleeve. But again, that's why what happened against the Giants, the defense got punked. The entire team got punked, but the defense got punked. You don't give up 34 points to them. If we had CJGJ, his attitude, his swagger, the way he plays, that wouldn't have happened. We had no life out there. And that's again, another reason why I'm in favor of bringing CJGJ back, because he's got that swag. He's got heart. He's going, he's going to show some attitude. And that's what the team needed. That's what the defense needed, and there was none out there. And you could tell in the second half. Obviously, the Eagles' offense not scoring in the second half didn't help. And Jalen missing Devontae Smith, which would have made a 24-14 game, 24-21, and maybe that changes the complexion of the game. Missing a wide-open Smith did not help. But the defense also gave up 34 points. I'll say 27 because of the close pick 6, and that they were put in a bad spot there at the end of the game. But you can't give up that many points to the Giants of all teams. So they can't get punked like that again. They need to have heart. That was a gutless effort by the entire team. And I know Jalen Carter didn't play and Quinyon Mitchell only played a quarter and a little over a quarter. That does not matter. Go out there and play with some pride. And they did not play with pride. They quit. The defense quit. The offense is non-existent in half of every game. So they need to figure it out, and they need to bring somebody in here that's going to help, that's going to provide a spark, because they don't have it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Like there's definitely some major issues right now in that locker room. They're defeated. They're deflated. The reports are out there. Like what I think it was a GM or a coach or something made the comments that that clearly they're not looking right. They don't look like the same Eagles as last year. They're definitely not looking like that Eagles team from last year. There's definitely some issues. The old adage in the NFL, winning cures all. It's 100% true. As soon and things weren't going well to start, and then you still came out 4-0, and then you ran into that slide where then you lost 2 games. I mean, I guess the benefit is we won 4 of the probably hardest games of the season, but now we need to get right. We need to get back on track. And I know, like you said, the Minnesota Vikings are probably not the best team to get on track. They allowed less than 100 yards points against so far this season. Of course, they had the bye week already, but they are an elite defense, and this offense hasn't been able to figure things out. And even though it's Carson Wentz, it's still an offense that looks good. They got some weapons. They're looking like a viable offense. But I mean, when you go back to that game, like you said, I agree with you. It was gutless. There's no emotion. There's nothing. Every time they pan to the sideline, it's like people. Every time they showed Jalen Hurts on the sideline, he was staring at their tablet like it was fixing anything about this game. On the defensive side of the ball, you definitely can tell when a guy like Jalen Carter's out. Like it just takes a win completely out of the sail. And this is one of those situations where you start to really miss, like you said, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a Brandon Graham, some of those guys who kind of kept the energy going. It just feels like the leadership isn't all there. Right now, the leadership's just all talk, just trying to say what the media needs to hear, what the media wants to hear, but it's not turning into anything on the football field, not translating into anything on the football field. And at the beginning of the game, Jalen Hurts did not look terrible. I mean, he ended up throwing for 283 yards. He threw his first pick in 300 and some odd pass attempts. It was the NFL record or the lead right up until then. He tried to find AJ Brown. He tried to find Devontae Smith. I think that pass to Devontae Smith was just a absolute backbreaker and just a sign of this offense is totally like the week prior. You had the AJ Brown play, whoever you want to blame it on, it doesn't matter. They weren't connected. And then he goes and overshoots Devontae Smith. It just feels like there's nowheres within this offense that is fully connected that can put together 4 quarters of football. We can put together a quarter, we can put together a half, but we need to be able to put together enough to be able to complete the game, finish off a game, and we haven't been able to, and that's put our defense in extremely precarious positions over the past couple weeks, over the past almost all season. Even when we've had a lead, we've started to put our backs against the wall and force the defense to do way more than in a offensive happy football NFL. You can't continue to put your defense with their back against the wall and trying to win the game for you. You have to be able to put points up when you need to put points up. And it feels like for one half of every game, we literally just drop a goose egg and leave it to the defense. And they just can't be left constantly, especially when we're going 3 and out, 1 minute possession, 2 minute possessions. We're not even getting extended drives that give the defense time to even catch their breath. And with Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart, those guys have so much energy. I got to give it to them. They had so much energy. They were running all over us. This Russian defense is a shell of what they were last season. And some things need to change and some things need to get better in a hurry. And even every time I hear Kevin Petula up for a press conference, like even today, it is excruciating to listen to that guy speak to the media. He toes the line to the best of his ability, and week in and week out continues to show nothing new, nothing different. Just that this offense is can pop off some plays and then becomes extremely, extremely predictable. I think it was what they ended up, it was 34 snaps from shotgun. I can't remember the stat, but it was almost 40 snaps from shotgun. And then there was 6 snaps under center, but 4 of them were obviously the back to back to back to back, tush push. But so basically, they did 2 under center and 34 or 36 from shotgun. Again, predictable.
Yeah, I wish they would have saved the 4 straight tush pushes for the Green Bay game, but that's a different story for a different day. And Lane Johnson even said after the game that they're predictable. You can tell they have tendencies depending on the formation they're in. The down and distance, you kind of know what they're going to do, and it is frustrating because like everybody on the couch sitting at home watching the game can just call out the Eagles offense. And Sirianni said that Patullo is still going to call plays. It's unfortunate. I wish they would have made a change somehow. But, the other thing I wanted to say, remember last year we had somebody say they wanted to see Jalen go out there and complete or throw for 250, 270 plus yards. He wanted to see that. The last 2 games, Jalen has thrown for over 280 yards, right? And guess what? They've lost. I don't give a crap about stats. I just want to win. If they could find a way to go back to find it, if they can find a way to get wins, I don't care how it's done. The passing game, the running game, whatever it is. Obviously, Jalen does have to get back into rhythm with his receivers. On the interception, I know there was a lot of people saying that A.J. Brown was open when he was running kind of that to the corner on the end zone, in the end zone. I feel like he was more open only because Jalen threw it and then he was open. I don't know if you saw it differently, Connor. Could he have gotten it to him? I would say probably. I mean, AJ is a physical beast, so you throw it up, he'll win that matchup 9 times out of 10. But for some reason, Jalen has been really risk averse and doesn't want to turn the ball over. So hopefully they figured that out, over this mini bye and they start, getting into a rhythm, not just the passing game, get the running game going. The offensive line, I think, a lot of people want to blame Jalen, and Jalen does deserve blame, but the offensive line deserves blame too. Like, they have been really bad. Obviously, Landon Dickerson's out for a couple more weeks. Jordan Mailata hasn't been good. Cam Jurgens hasn't been good at all. Lane Johnson's probably been our best offensive lineman, but he also has come out of 2 games. And Tyler Steen Tyler Steen has been okay, but he's obviously not Mekhi Becton. So the offensive line really, and I hate hearing week in and week out when Jordan Mailata talks, he's like, we're 1 play away. We'll or we're 1 block away. We'll make that block. Do something, because we, watching the Atlanta game yesterday, Bijan Robinson went for 81 yards. Like, I want to see that. We need to get in the open field, open up some holes like you did last year, so that because the running game can help the passing game, and then pass protect because the passing game can help the running game. It all coincides together, and they need to figure it out soon.
Yeah, it just feels like every week when it feels like Kevin Patullo might be figuring certain things out, he falls right back into a tendency. He falls right back into just really poor play calling. Like, you continue to see the routes by these wide receivers to be just so basic, to be so just hitches, just not getting to the first down, nothing big. There's no big playability. And then in the situations where you want a big play, it's long form, and it's taken way too long for people to get in place and for the situation to look right. Things just aren't clicking with this offense. It needs to fix, and it needs to fix fast. Like you said, the offensive line definitely is not looking themselves, not their usual selves. If I think back to think back to the last 2, 3, even up to 5 years, this may be one of the worst years for Jeff Stoutland and his offensive line. Like, I really can't go back and think of many years that were this much worse. We could usually bank on them as being one of the best features and best assets of this team. And just like you said, I think Jordan Mailata allowed 4 pressures. Brett Toth allowed 2 pressures. Like, when you have so much pressure coming, like if Jordan Mailata can hold his own, you can kind of deal with Brett Toth. But when you have the whole left side of the line being as bad as they have been, it's going to make the rest of the offensive line look bad. I know that people want to put some blame on Steen. Steen and Johnson, I think, have been pretty good, but more pressure is applied to them when the whole other side of the line is completely ineffective, giving up. Like Landon Dickerson, even when in the lineup, was completely banged up. You could tell he wasn't himself. He was limping after almost every single play. Then you put Brett Toth in. Brett Toth is definitely not going to be a whole lot better than a banged up Landon Dickerson. So that whole left side of the line, until one of them gets their game together to be able to support the other, the right side of the line, and then Cam Jurgens is in accordance going to look even just as bad or worse, because they're continuing to have pressure applied to them because they have to try and make plays when other people aren't making the plays. And then, of course, that leads to Saquon Barkley not being able to do anything, and he continues to just not be able to do anything. I think this year is his worst year. I think he's being hit behind the line, 35% of the time. So he's being hit before the line of scrimmage, like 35% of the time or something. The average in the NFL right now is 26%, and his career average is like 30%. So he's facing contact so much earlier than he usually is, even in comparison to some of those years in New York when felt like he was constantly being hit behind the line of scrimmage. So obviously, they're struggling majorly to get that run game going. Say, like you said, Jalen Hurts, he's throwing the ball. You wanted to see him throw the ball 30 plus times. We said all last year when people were like, we got to see him throw the ball more. We got to see him show that he can be a passing quarterback. He can definitely be a passing quarterback. But the more and the more and the more you apply pressure to throw the football, you're bound to make mistakes. And we finally saw Jalen Hurts make that crucial mistake after whatever it was, between 300 and 305 pass attempts without an interception. And then on that AJ Brown play, it is always so easy when you get the all 22 footage to say, how did he not get this? If that wasn't the first read, if that wasn't necessarily the play call, maybe when you slow it way down, could he have put the ball out in front of AJ Brown and completed that pass if he looked away from Devontae Smith? Yes, I think he could have. What we see in the all 22, is that the same as what Jalen Hurts is seeing in the moment, or what he's trying to do based on the play call in the moment? It's just like the tush push and trying to call the offsides, trying to call the false starts. When you have the opportunity to take that little toggle at the bottom and pull it to your own speed, anything can happen.
Exactly. Like, you slow it down, and everybody, when the Eagles ran the tush push, people did that exact thing, and they're jumping off sides, blah blah blah.
I mean, I do think it was a false start on that first one, but
you're not able. Your eyes in real time is not able to slow down. So just get over it. Like, it's annoying. I'm still frustrated by the game just because, like, the ass whooping that they gave us, I was not expecting. Not 34-17. Like, you're not supposed to lose to the freaking Giants that way. And then on the defensive side,
and for anyone who didn't see, because we didn't get a chance to do a show last week, a preview show, we both predicted the Eagles to win. I think I was 24-17. I think you were 24-14. So
yeah.
we had it like the Eagles should have won this game, and it probably wasn't going to be as big of a win as we would have wanted to. But then we ended up getting our asses handed to us, and everything you wanted to see change, nothing went right. There was no point in that game where all three facets of the game were working at all. Like, the field position the Giants were getting, it felt like every kick return, what they were getting out to near the 40. The field position was, and I pointed that out as one of my keys to the game, was they are one of the top kick returning teams. You have to make your tackles, and you have to be able to stop them in their track and not give them optimal field position, because people can do anything when they're given the right field position.
Also, you saw Sirianni flip out because freaking Tank Bigsby dropped another one. AJ Dillon dropped one too. Like, the Eagles seem to be the only team in the NFL that just can't catch a kick. They need to figure out. Xavier Gibson should be up. Will Shipley should be back there. Your boy might end up being back there. I'm not a big fan of him. He's still on the team. Britton Covey, like somebody that can catch the ball and get to the 25-yard line. which is sad that we're asking the 25 when, the average starting field position is probably closer to 35. But somebody catch the ball so we're not starting inside the 5 freaking yard line. It's so annoying.
I'm shocked that Gibson has not. I get the first week, but last week there was nothing done the week prior that told you Xavier Gibson can't come up. You are keeping 4 running backs on that roster because Tank Bigsby is supposed to be a guy who can return the football. And since we got him, he has literally become allergic to any ability to return a kick at all, even to catch a football. And that is his only job.
He was a waste. We wasted 2 draft picks trading for him. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are probably thrilled right now. So we'll see if they can figure out the special teams. Obviously, the kicking game is as well. The punt, Braden Mann is really good. It's that return. It's the return game. They stink at it, and hopefully, I'm done seeing Bigsby back there. Done seeing AJ Dillon. Why AJ Dillon's back there, I don't know. But they definitely need to figure that out.
They're just throwing anything at the wall, hoping that it's going to work. And Michael Clay is one smart dude. Like the fact that I don't know if it's that he's being told this is who's going to be on our game day roster, or if he literally has no say in who he can have on that field.
Well, he doesn't have the power that Vic Fangio has. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely not. Agent Warrior X, he says hello. Welcome aboard. And he said good game on Thursday, by the way. I'm guessing he's a Giants fan, and I'm guessing that
when's the last time the Giants were the only team in the NFC East to win on a giving week? That's a serious question. I meant to look it up, but Dallas lost, the Washington lost, and we lost. The Giants are the only team. I never thought that would happen. Well, it's had to have been a long time.
And and I'm not disrespecting the Giants, but obviously there's a certain energy that comes when you make that big change at quarterback. We see it time and time again where there's this opportunity, they change quarterbacks and they get this rush of energy and this flow of wins for maybe a month or so, and then once the tape starts to roll out, people figure things out. And Jackson Dart, first of all, I hope that he gets a fine for leading with the helmet on that play.
Oh, that definitely better be a fine
on Jahad Campbell, because if not, then the NFL is not being fair at all in how they manage fines and how they manage, specific plays. And
here we go.
And how they.
So,
go ahead.
2020 week 6. Week 6 of 2020, the Giants beat Washington 20-19. The Cardinals beat the Cowboys 38-10. The Ravens beat the Eagles 30-28, and that was the first win for Joe Judge.
Wow,
that's the last
5 years nearly since they were the only team to win in the NFC East.
Technically, to the week, because it was week 6.
Yeah, that's a stat. And so I feel like the energy, good for the Giants. They needed this. They needed some energy. They were feeling like a lifeless football team. Them and the Jets in the same stadium was almost depressing. It's good that they're getting an energy. It sucks that they lost Malik Neighbors. Obviously, Darius Slayton is nowhere near Malik Neighbors. So even if Slayton is healthy and back, he's not going to be able to make up for what Neighbors could have been. The defense, they're not a bad defense, still not a top defense, not a great defense. I just think that eventually teams are going to catch on to some of this, and things could get dangerous. Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart, to me, play extremely recklessly, and they could be a wrong play or a wrong way of running or leaning into a play from being done for the season too. So they can get away with how they play.
They can get away with that now. Like I mentioned, there's not much tape for them, but the Broncos have a really good defense, and they'll see them this week. They get us in Philly in the week after. Who knows? Hopefully we're a little bit healthier by then, but we'll see what happens. But I think they're definitely not going to underestimate them. Scatterbo went for 98, 99 yards rushing and running through people. Jackson Dart left Zach Ballin in his dust, and just sitting there looking for his ankles on the field. That doesn't happen often.
They both went for over 4.5 yards per carry. You can't have the quarterback go for 58 and the running back go for 98.
What's crazy?
Crazy.
Saquon Barkley's first 2 carries, which were the first 2 plays of the game, went for 31 yards. He had 27 the rest of the day. They stopped running the football. The Giants are not good against the run, and the Eagles just were like, we're not gonna run it. We're just gonna throw it all over the place. Like, how does that make any sense whatsoever? It's mind-boggling, And then Dallas Goedert. The one thing that Jalen is really feeling comfortable throwing the ball to Goddard. He had 9 catches for 110 yards. AJ had 6 catches for 80. Devontae 4 for 49. Saquon had 12. Saquon averaged over 4.5 yards a carry, and they gave him the ball 12 times. That's it.
Should have been more. Should have been. And then, but beyond that, just like I noted earlier, they then went and lined up in shotgun almost exclusively for the rest of the football game. Like, you can't. That is such a dead giveaway. How often are you genuinely running out of the shotgun? Definitely not that much, because like you said, he had 2 for 31 and then he went 10 for 27. So clearly when you were running out of shotgun, I mean, it's slow. First of all, you don't get the same head of steam as coming from under center, because you get a few yards to run up, kind of see what's going on, and then get into a hole and go. From shotgun, you just take the handoff and you have no momentum whatsoever, and then you got to find your hole and hopefully get it and hit it. But I mean, it's just like the fact that he actually found something that worked more effectively than any back-to-back plays I think we've seen yet this season. And he decided this is a good time to end up going off and throwing almost 40 times after that. 33. Just made no sense. 33
pass attempts for Jalen. And sure, I want him to be around the 30 mark, but like, don't give up on the run. And they're still not doing RPOs with Jalen, and that usually works. So I'm hoping that over this 10 days that they figured something out. They did a self-evaluation, which I feel like we say all the time, go and self-evaluate. But it definitely, something needs to change on the offense. They're a broken football.
What was your thoughts on the prospect of bringing in outside help, i.e., Doug Peterson, to figure out this offense?
I don't know if Doug Peterson's the guy, but I would bring somebody in. I don't know who. Like, there's obviously really nobody available right now. The guy that everybody is talking about could potentially be fired in a couple of weeks, and Mike McDaniel. Now, so I know he's controversial. The potential of bringing him in because of how he handles the Dolphins. My number one was, did him and Vic Fangio get along? Because if they didn't, it's not happening. Obviously, because Fangio was in Miami for a year. If McDaniel, so Howie and Nick Sirianni will have firsthand knowledge from Fangio if that would even make sense. But say it did. Say everything worked out. People were saying, well, like, he's terrible. He would not be the head coach. The thing about McDaniel, he can be let him handle the offense. He would get the way he moves around Tyreek Hill, Jaden Waddle, the way that he moves everybody around. Let him do that at Devontae and AJ. He won't be running the team. The culture setter is Nick Sirianni. So I wouldn't worry about that. Just let him run the offense. Let him call plays. He would be way more creative than what we're doing right now. Now, obviously, it'd be tough for him to come in the middle of the year, and unless it was into the bye week, it'd be tough for him to come in the middle of the year and throw in an entirely new offense. But I'm sure there are plays that the Dolphins run that the Eagles kind of have a similar thing that they do that McDaniel would be able to, base or put a game plan together around. Not asking him to be the head coach, not asking him to lead the team, be a leader of men. That's not him. That's not what he does. He's corny. He's a corny dude, but he's really good. He's got a good offensive mind. He wouldn't have to worry about the game day stuff. That's all Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni would handle all that. Go out there and call plays. So I'm in favor of somebody like Mike McDaniel coming in. Doug Peterson, I don't know. Like, it's tough with Doug Peterson. He has a freaking statue out in front of the stadium. He was the head coach before Nick Sirianni. So, like, I don't know how awkward that would be. But I mean, I wish they would. And I'm pretty sure if Frank Reich wasn't the head coach at Stanford right now, it would have been him. But like, thinking outside, like, I don't know who is available right now that you could bring in besides Doug. That Mike McCarthy, or maybe But he was just Dallas's head coach. I don't know if we want that.
And that offense completely flatlined. So do you really want to put yourself in a position that you're taking advice from an offense?
Dak still threw the ball around the field a lot, and they did put up yards. They put up yards. So that's something that everybody wants. So like
I definitely don't think there's a lot that's going to be available. I think you'd purely be thinking from a consultative approach, and you'd be hoping that someone can come in, egos can be set aside, and you can look at plays together, you can look at concepts together, and you can make something happen out of it. Similar to the Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio came in, and then we thought we were going to get to hire him, and then Jonathan Gannon screwed us. Like similar to that, like just somebody who you can consult with and who you can really fix. Like I feel like an outside approach might need to be taken because inside's clearly not working.
I know he just got fired, and I think he's an offensive guy. Then their offense was, but Zach Robinson, right? That's who the coach of Tennessee was. Callahan. I'm sorry, Brian Callahan.
Callahan. He was because he was the offensive mind in Cincinnati, but then I think it was Zach Taylor who was calling the play. So how much of that offense was Brian Callahan's versus?
But he still has knowledge of
Tennessee.
He still has knowledge, and that it'd be different. So like I'm again just thinking of Nancy, and he just got fired, so he's not going to probably want to go from being the head coach of Tennessee to being an offensive consultant here. So yeah.
Joey says, "Go Birds! Need Howie to do something special this week." I just think
it's kind of late now.
It's too late. Yeah, I just think it's too late. Like I feel like he might try and stir something and make some magic happen. Maybe at the end of the week that won't impact this game, but that will ultimately impact future games and future weeks. But I really do think, I think CB2 is going to ultimately be viewed as a bigger need than edge, because kind of like I alluded to earlier in the episode, Jalix Hunt, they think very highly of. I think that while he is a developmental guy, he kind of was pushed into a role where he could have used more time to further develop. If they had somebody who could have been in front of him, they would have put them there. And then Nolan Smith, this Eagles staff thinks incredibly high of Nolan Smith. He ended up having, I think it was 6 sacks across 11 weeks after the bye week last week, not inclusive of the 4 more sacks that he had in 4 postseason games. I think he was slow to get going, and then the injury obviously bit him, and he won't be back till after the bye week. But I do think that, as much as I hate the concept, they do think that having a guy like Nolan Smith come back is probably going to be like acquiring someone. I hate that.
Yeah, but that's not for another 3 weeks. That's another 3 weeks.
And the biggest issue I think that comes from this is we're in the bye week when the trade deadline is going to happen. So Howie has to make a decision based off of a game against the Vikings and then a game against the Giants again. What is the need and what he has to absolutely address.
I mean, he can make a trade this week.
The bye week.
He could make a trade this week.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I get obviously CB2 is bad, but we only have 4 edge rushers right now. 4. And they're terrible.
Well, you have Power Islands coming up this week. You might as well bank that. Take it to the bank that he's still. It does.
Again, he's a rookie. He hasn't done anything in the NFL. It doesn't mean anything. So I'm still worried because we had 2 sacks last week, but like the guy that led the edges in sacks just retired. So we've gotten next to no pressure on the quarterback. We have like 7 sacks on the entire year, or something like that. Like that does
9 sacks on the year, and 1.5 came from a guy who retired. So
yeah, exactly. So that, like, while CB2 is a very needing position, we cannot discount edge at all. And this is why, again, you can literally right now sign CJGJ and he could play this week. He knows this defense. Have they put new stuff in? Sure. But like, he's been in the league long enough that tell him, all right, if they say they want him to play slot, you cover Thielen, just cover him, and then if you're going to go zone or go blitz or whatever, like just tell him what he needs to do. But I will say it again. You bring in CJGJ, he can play this week. And then even if you trade it for an edge, tomorrow, he's probably not going to play on Sunday. But even potentially it's an edge. You tell him go get the quarterback. If depending on the situation, like say you were to trade for Trey Hendrickson, which you're not going to, he's got a back injury, and who knows if he's going to play this week anyway. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, I think they're good. So like they know Fangio's system because they played it in Miami for a year. So again, go out there, line up at edge, go to the quarterback. Like there are things where if you made a move, you just tell them, hey, I want you to do this. We'll put a package of plays together for you. You'll be on the field for 15 to 20 snaps. Go get the quarterback. So I don't know. Again, I'm not saying how he's going to make a move this week, but it's easy that it's potential that if you did make a move, you can get them on the field as early as Sunday.
Yeah, I just think like edge is such a premium, and you're going to have to pay such a premium. And we know that Howie's not the type to necessarily go out there and pay the premium. He likes to find the guy who's not going to get the extension, the disgruntled player on his way out, that he's not going to have to pay this massive price for it. And I feel like he's probably got a better chance of finding that at CB2 than at edge. And as much as we hate the concept and how Nolan Smith was and how this team hasn't been creating a lot of pressure, I do think they're going to put a ton of value in. Let's get to the bye week. Nolan Smith will be able to come back. There's another edge rusher. There's our premium quote unquote edge rusher that they'd be hoping that's going to be
even getting Nolan Smith back. They need somebody else. I don't care. I agree. And Nolan Smith wasn't good earlier in the year. Like, so getting him back might not mean anything. Like, I think he has the 100%. Potential. So they need, like, I think getting edge rusher is, but cornerback's also a premium position. But you need somebody to come. You could actually go out and sign Stephen Gilmore right now if you wanted to for CB2. Let's be honest. He's better than Adoree Jackson and Kaylee Ringo. So if they really wanted to, they could do that. I think that if Howie wanted to strike early, he'll have to pay a price, but it might not be as much as if you wait to the deadline. If you wait to the deadline, you're going to be competing against 5 teams. But if you got out ahead of it right now, and while teams are like, should we do this? Should we not do this? You call up somebody, call up Miami, like, hey, I want Chubb. I'll give you this. Take it or leave it. Maybe they'll be like, all right, we'll just give you, their season's over. We'll get something for them. Get it done early. Get it done now so that on November 4th or whatever the day is, you're not competing with 5 or 6 other teams.
Well, and I think this week, like in speaking about Miami, this week's going to be huge. This is Miami versus the Cleveland Browns. If Miami loses to the Cleveland Browns, you absolutely know that this is likely the end of Mike McDaniel, and it's likely time to go through a full rebuild of the culture, rebuild of the team, because there's just so much negativity around that team that I don't think just the coach going away is going to change anything. So then you got to make the decision: do you pay a premium for older rental guy like Bradley Chubb, or do you go and try and get a guy like Jalen Phillips and see, you probably have to pay even a bit more of a premium and you might have to slap a contract on him, but at least it's someone you might be able to have beyond this year. But we already know there's a whole bunch of edges being shopped. And like, I agree with you. This is when Howie's savvy mindset needs to come into play, and he needs to jump out ahead of it. I'm only thinking, the way I was talking is how I'm thinking that the Eagles are probably thinking about their situation. They probably see a major benefit in heaven and getting back Nolan Smith, whereas everyone else sees it as, okay, you're still going to only have 4 edge rushers. You still need a better edge rusher than, say, Jalix Hunt, who is your E2 right now. You definitely need somebody who's going to be better than that. I
think the Eagles prioritize defensive line more.
Way more, for sure.
Now they do prioritize corners. They drafted 2 last year in the first 2 rounds, but I do think that they prioritize the defensive line more than they do the cornerback spot. And then, like, look, we have Joe Douglas in the building. Use that to your advantage. He drafted Jermaine Johnson from the Jets. Maybe see if you can finagle, something out of the Jets. That team's the only winless team in the league. And,
the reports are that they want a haul for Jermaine Johnson, though. So
he's young. He's young, though. And of course, and he did go to Georgia. Like before Florida State, he went to Georgia. So just saying. Exactly. Just you have to use your resources, and how he usually does. I don't know who's the GM. I forget who the GM is. Is he a Detroit guy? I don't remember. But use your resources and use Joe Douglas to see if you just find out. Go out there and get a young, talented guy that can get after the quarterback. And the Jets season is over already. And they're not going to trade
like
Quinnen Williams. They're not going to trade.
I feel like the loss of Josh Sweat, although he wasn't like amazing, like he wasn't this like I would never have paid the money that he got, but I feel like we are really feeling the loss of him and Brandon.
We're
Graham
feeling
together.
the loss of Isaiah Rodgers.
Oh, that
and
one was
Darius
but that was
Slay.
That was a bad. Like I get it. You thought you were going to get this huge discount on Adoree Jackson, and he was going to be something for you at CB2. Let's just remember the average for the 2 years salary for Isaiah Rodgers is $6.5 million. I would have paid $5 million more for the production and the play that we're getting that Isaiah Rodgers is doing in Minnesota than we're getting out of Adoree Jackson here in Philadelphia. And
Isaiah Rodgers is going to pick off. He's going to pick off Jalen Hurts this week, isn't he?
And I said it last year that my order of priority was Zach Bond, Isaiah Rodgers. And I know that a lot of people are saying, oh, Mekhi backed in. And some people are still thinking Josh Sweat and Milton Williams should be prioritized over Isaiah Rodgers. You gave Isaiah Rodgers a chance. I'm sure if you went to him, he would have been willing to give you the chance, just like you gave him the chance to come back and play for you guys. I don't know why. I cannot fathom why they thought Adoree Jackson. I guess they thought Kelee Ringo could be the answer. I hope that they are starting to finally realize Kelee Ringo is not the answer. He's never going to be the answer. He needs way more development. There's too many features within his game that like he's so slow. His hips are painful to watch. Like he's just not a good coverage guy. And we're definitely missing Isaiah Rodgers massively. Like I mean, he was my number 2 priority. Zach Bond obviously had to be your number 1 priority. That was by a mile. But there was no way that I was putting anyone close to Isaiah Rodgers because he was you could just see that when there was an issue on the field and he was on the field covering as the other CB off the bench, there wasn't this major drop off in play. We're seeing a major drop off this year in play at the CB2 position. And it's painful to watch, especially knowing that all it took was $5 million per year, and we know how he finagles the salary cap. That $5 million per year, it wasn't actually genuinely going to be $5 million per year. That's just the average output, that it was going to be more than what we paid Adoree Jackson. So, I mean, it's frustrating. Is how we're going to make some moves. I don't know if I'm going to get to the point where it's going to be this huge move that we're all going to go off and celebrate as this massive move that's going to completely alter our season. I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done internally. I think there's way too much talent for this team to look at the way that they have been these past 6 weeks, especially these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, the offense needs to figure it out. Give us two halves of football. It's really frustrating. But we'll see what happens this week against the tough Minnesota defense and Brian Flores. Isaiah Rodgers. They have Javon Hargraves, old friend. They have Jonathan Allen in the center. Van Ginkel.
Andrew Van Ginkel, Vic Fangio prodigy.
Yeah. And on the offensive side of the ball, everybody knows Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. We don't know who's starting at quarterback yet. I think it'll be Carson Wentz, but JJ McCarthy, both are practicing this week. I know Carson has a shoulder thing. JJ has an ankle thing, so we'll see. Their offensive line is okay. So, and then you mentioned TJ Hawkinson earlier. It's going to be a big battle. I will be in attendance. I'm sort of looking forward to it. I don't know. I really don't know what to think about this game. I was more excited like 3 weeks ago than I am now, put it that way. But yeah, so Eagles, Minnesota. We'll be back on Thursday to get you set for that matchup as I fly out Friday when we normally do this. I'll fly out to Minnesota Friday, get to spend a couple of days there. It's going to be weird. The game starts at 12 there and 1 here and 2 for you. So like it's an hour time difference. So that's going to be different, but I am looking forward to going to Minnesota. Never been there. See the stadium where the Eagles won their first Super Bowl. Final thoughts on the Eagles Giants, Connor, before we finish off?
I mean, let's move
blow
on.
The tape up.
Yeah, let's move on. And I mean, I guess we get him again in 2 weeks. Hopefully he took some good notes, and hopefully now you got some tape on Dart, you got some tape on Scatterboo. And you saw what worked very early on for the Eagles offense. I think you can take advantage and use Saquon Barkley. So, I mean, let's look past this week onto the next week. I mean, at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills were 4-0 just like us 2 weeks ago. They're now 4-2. The discussion's never going to point
Yeah,
that
there's
way.
really
You
no
don't get
there's
you
really
don't get as
no
much reaction from Bills fans as you get out of the Eagles fan base if you're picking at
well, and the
somebody,
national
but-
media is not. The national media is not really, oh, what's wrong with the Bills? It's all what's wrong with the Eagles. Like the Tampa's 5-1. The Eagles gave them their loss. So it's going to be. And look, the Eagles do have a tough schedule coming up. After the bye, like we know we have the Vikings this week, and then the Giants, and after the bye, at Packers versus Lions, at Cowboys versus Bears, at Chargers. Like it's going to be tough. And then we finish the season
next gauntlet.
Yeah, and then we finish the season at Washington, at Buffalo, at home, and then hosting Washington. So it's going to be tough. Take it one game at a time and just get this offense going. And if it's lifeless again this week, if Patullo is not fired before they get back to Philly, then something like Sirianni's going to have some questions to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You can't do anything about the past. We can only focus on the present and the future and right in this ship. So let's hope that they start to right the ship this week. They need to. And just like you said, coming out of that bye week, they got to come out flying. That's another stretch that if you can go 4-0 or you can go 3-1, that can be humongous for your season.
Yep, and then you're going to be going up against teams that you could be potentially battling for the number 1 seed if you're fortunate enough. Thank you all for tuning into the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHurrell54 and follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. We appreciate the comments. We'll be back on Thursday to get you set for the Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings in Week 7 in the National Football League. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.